All righty. Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday, December 17th, and this is the Water Pollution Control Authority December meeting. There was a posted agenda. Any proposed changes or modifications to that agenda? Hearing none. First line of business is the approval of the November 19th, 2025 WPCA meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Comments? All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. All right, moving on to old business. To hear, consider, and act on a sewer connection request, 730 and 770 Commerce Drive.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for the record, my name is Bill Fitzpatrick. I'm an attorney in Fairfield with the law firm of Russo and Rizzio, with offices at 10 Saskell Hill Road. I'm here tonight representing 730 Commerce Drive LLC, the owners of the property at 730 and 770 Commerce Drive. With me tonight, barely, is Rob Pryor, a professional engineer with Landtech, a multidisciplinary consulting firm in Westport. Also with me, one hopes, in the near future, are the principals of the owner, Ari Koudavides and Nico Koudavides. It's relevant to point out that the proposal here of constructing a small, the proposal here includes the construction of a small portion of the new building over the existing sewer line. Similarly, a proposal across the street for the Alto project across Commerce Drive, the property here, involved the very same thing, the crossing of an existing sewer line, in that case with the 5-story parking garage. Ari and Nico Koudavides were principals in that property as well, and the construction over the very same sewer line on that property was approved by WPCA and has not resulted in any issues. Proposal here, the property here contains 1.4 acres, is located in the Commerce Drive Design District Overlay. It's a combination of two properties, 730 Commerce and 770 Commerce. The owner is looking to construct a mixed-use project under the Transit-Oriented Development Park. P&Z held public hearings on this proposal and has approved the project, which includes 90 residential units and 4,300 square feet of retail space. The application before you is to connect to the sewer line, and as I noted, a small portion of the proposed building is over the existing sewer line. Rob Pryor, the project engineer, has submitted various items of documentation to the WPCA and the WPCA staff, specifically Michelle Gore, the WPC general manager, who has responded in a very timely fashion, asking questions and requesting further information. I think it's fair to say the significant majority of the issues at hand have been addressed. And at this point, I'd like to introduce Mr. Rob Pryor to outline the relevant issues for the WPCA. When Rob is finished, I will then conclude. Rob.
So good evening. For the record, Robert Pryor, professional engineer and land surveyor with Landtech, here tonight representing the applicant. As Attorney Fitzpatrick has mentioned, we've submitted several documents over the time of this application. Back in August, we submitted our original sanitary sewer capacity analysis. At the first WPCA meeting, one of the questions that came up was relative to some other projects that had been approved subsequent, but had not been constructed yet. And how that when you combine those flows with our flows, what that would do to the existing trunk line. So using some of the reports that had been previously submitted for different projects, we provided a supplemental analysis to on October 8th that took into account the 105 and 108 Byro Street projects. Subsequent to that, Wright Pierce provided a response to that additional information, essentially concurring with our conclusions with regard to the capacity, even including those projects, was that we were still under the 80%, obviously under the 80%, sort of that 80% threshold that we always talk about. That again, that's dated November 5th is the Wright Pierce. I think the most noteworthy thing that came out of the first meeting was the discussion about whether or not the owners had the right to construct the building over the easement. So subsequent to that, I think the town attorney had made an opinion with regard to that, which I'll let Bill discuss later. But we, as the engineers, were tasked with looking at that as far as the feasibility of actually doing what we would call a sort of an open cut and cover reconstruction of the sewer through the property. And that would mean that you would dig down to depth, remove the existing pipe, and then relay a new pipe in basically the same location, but you would relay a larger pipe in that basically that same line and grade is what we would call it of the old pipe. So we provided a technical memorandum dated December 3rd, 2025, outlining why we didn't believe that an open cut and cover construction through the property would be feasible. And our comments are generally there's the limiting factors here are the depth of the excavation, which to the bottom of the existing pipe is now between 22 and 25 feet deep. And that coupled with the narrowness of the easement, which is only 10 feet, really precludes you from being able to do that, because you would have to stay within the 10 feet of easement, and then you would have to support the trench sides through some method of shoring or some methodology of shoring, which we go through the various methods that would have to be used. And so our position is that you really couldn't do that. And we provided an exhibit to the Sewer Commission, kind of outlining what that looks like in section, how that, you would start with a 10-foot wide easement, but then you would have to do some type of sheet piling or some kind of methodology that would actually constrict the trench even smaller. You would probably end up with 8 feet of actual trench width to work with, notwithstanding the fact that the equipment used to drive the piles probably doesn't fit in a 10-foot easement widthwise anyway. You probably couldn't get the equipment to do the pile driving in the existing easement. You might very close though, and it would be with almost no room to spare. So as Bill was talking about, I'll just go through the exhibit pretty quickly. This green and blue highlighted area shows the existing sewer easement. The orange highlighted line is the existing property line between the two properties. What we found when we did the survey was that the easement is not continuous. Where it cuts across the corner of the property, there's a discontinuity in the alignment of the easement. And so actually a short portion of the sewer line actually looks like it falls outside of the existing easement. When we look at this, the blue section is the portion of the easement that would be affected by the proposed building. When you take the portion area-wise that's affected by the building compared to the whole easement on the property, It's about 22% of the whole easement area and about 21% of the length. The length across here is about 51 feet of pipe that would be under the building. That's about 21% of the whole length of the sewer on the property. So again, it's our position that in order to build that, you really wouldn't be able to do that via a cut and cover methodology. It would be very expensive, and that you would tend to do it via trenchless methodology, a pipe bursting, something like that, where by which they run what they call a mandrel through the pipe, it expands, it breaks the old pipe, and then you pull a new bigger pipe through that area. And that can be done, that's one methodology of trenchless, and would be effective here because the pipe is so deep, it would not have an effect on the proposed building above it. And our structural engineer has, I believe, has answered some questions from Michelle, basically reinforcing that a pipe bursting technology, if it was used with a static pipe bursting methodology, could be done without affecting the building. This exhibit just kind of highlights kind of the overall area that we're talking about, and our site is right here. This length of pipe here is where Bill was talking about how the newer building across the street was built over the existing sewer line. That's obviously we're looking at 50 feet. This is probably twice, 3 times that distance. So a replacement of that pipe would be, obviously, if you were going to replace it in place, you would have one option, and that's a trenchless type of technology. And then I guess I looked through some of the older data and the older as-builts, and what I noticed, and this is going to be a little bit, because it's oriented a little different, but the pipe that, this section of pipe here is this section of pipe, and then it continues across the street, and then this section of pipe is the section of pipe that goes across Commerce Drive and then through our property and onto the manhole on the Staples Plaza property. Interesting to note that the guys who designed this and built this back in 1958 came to the same conclusions that we do, because they tunneled to put that pipe in. They didn't do open cut and cover to put that original pipe in. And it's pretty easy to figure out why, because you can see that the area tunneling is the area I've highlighted in orange, and you can see they used tunneling where the depths got very deep. So, I think they came to the same realization that we do, that open cut and cover here wouldn't be feasible. And the other thing that's interesting about this, when you look at it, is you can see back here, it's not as deep, but they didn't open cut and cover that either. They used reinforced concrete cylinder pipe. They jacked that. They didn't open cut and cover that. They jacked that pipe in. And what's telling is we would have expect that they would have done the same thing in this deep area, because jacking's cheaper than tunneling. But they didn't, because they used tunneling and they used regular RCP, and that's because the likelihood is that there's rock here, and that you can't jack pipe through rock, so you have to tunnel it. So that only adds to the fact that doing open cut and cover here, nearly impossible and very difficult and very expensive to do. So I think it only reinforces our position that open cut and cover is not a feasible way to work on that pipe. And that reality isn't changed by whether there's a building over it or not. The open cut, the trenchless technology was right for that area of town then, and it's right now. It's right for that, a repair of that pipe now. I think the only other thing I have is I know we talked about other methodologies that might be used, and, you know, the likelihood is that you probably wouldn't, you might line that existing pipe in place. You likely wouldn't expand it, and you likely wouldn't expand it in place because I think you've got areas, again, you've got areas uphill of the pipe that are cylinder pipe. You can't pipe burst that. You can't use pipe bursting to expand that kind of pipe. It just won't work. You could do it in that area under the existing, under our property. But I think there's areas also downstream that they used pipe jacking that you have reinforced cylinder pipe that you wouldn't be able to do pipe bursting. So the reality is the most likely method of increasing capacity here is doing some kind of an interceptor or bypass. And our technical memo discusses that. I think that's the technical sort of aspects of what we're looking at, and certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding the ability to do open cut and cover, or why we come to the conclusions that we do.
So can I ask a clarifying question? What kind of width would, if you wanted to do, put the rock aside, put some of the things aside, if you wanted to do open cut and cover, what kind of width would you reasonably expect to need?
So at these depths, I've seen sewer easements that are 30 feet wide. 20 feet would be maybe okay, but you would need, and again, notwithstanding, the thing about the thing about open cover, either any kind of pipe replacement that you're doing here is the one thing that, and I didn't mention, is the cost that you need to maintain the flows during that time, meaning you're temporarily bypassing. And I pulled up the other contract that you guys were doing, that you're doing down the way, and I didn't pull out the number for that bypass bumping, but I'm sure it's pretty significant.
So I guess one of my biggest concerns is, all this hypothetical is for a full pipe replacement. If there was like a spot repair for a collapse or something like that, you might use a trench box, just one spot, dig really deep. You could fit it in a 10-foot wide easement. You're taking that away from us by.
I don't think you can get down there with I don't know if you get down that deep with a trench box.
I don't know either, but I know that we absolutely can't if there's a building on top of the easement. So I guess my biggest concern is that you're just taking away an option that the town might have for certainty by putting a building over the easement.
I still think, I don't think that you would, I don't know that you would do a repair that, I don't even know if you would do a repair that way. I think you might do a slip lining of that pipe or something like that, and you would do it via a trenchless methodology. I think you would still use a trenchless methodology to do that, to do a repair on that,
I know that there's some limitations to trenchless depending on geotech, which I don't think we've gotten the geotech for this area. I see the map and I agree with you. That's probably how they put it in, but until we actually.
It doesn't change the necessity to shore the sides of the hole down to get down to that and all that. And just think about how you physically dig down in a 10-foot easement. You can't even swing the excavator around to cast the soil behind you.
Can I ask a clarifying question on that?
Yeah.
In your assessment, did you consider the placing backfill, materials and equipment outside of the 10-foot easement?
With regard to,
So did you assume that all of the equipment had to stay within the 10-foot easement? Or did you assume that the equipment could be next to the easement?
no, I assumed everything has to be, the rights the town has now is the 10-foot easement.
I don't think so. I think if you read the easement, it says that the town has the right, as reasonably necessary, to put equipment and materials adjacent to the easement.
I'll let Bill respond to that.
I mean, I don't love the argument of we're not able to use the easement, so we're just gonna give it up. That's not an acceptable.
Well, you're not giving up the easement.
Kind of are, and that's what Attorney Pierce's letter, his opinion was that if we've impacted the easement such that we can't use it, it could negate the easement entirely.
I think the presence of the pipe.
Paraphrasing, but
Yeah, I
that's
mean, I
kind
think the
of-
presence of the pipe in the easement protects your rights of having the easement.
So I'm also thinking about the protection, always the protection of our infrastructure and our ability to provide consistent service to our customers, and also to do what we're tasked to do, is to protect public health and the environment, right? So I'm wondering, Rob, can you elaborate more on the written correspondence that you and I have had in regards to those two questions I have about, one, demonstrating the impact of this construction and its final installation on our infrastructure, and then also identifying risks that might be presented by any of those alternatives that are talked about in the technical memorandum for rehabbing or repairing that infrastructure.
So certainly we talked about the, and I mean, anything, obviously, anything that you do with regards to shoring or anything around the pipe in order to get down to it to repair it carries some risk to the pipe itself. Because you're either, again, you're driving, sheet piling, you might be able to keep equipment, can't dig outside the easement. So you're driving something or drilling something in close proximity to that pipe to get down there. Obviously I think in the past, the commission has requested that we do a pre-construction survey of the pipe with, a televising of the pipe, and certainly we can do that. There's the reality of that, quite frankly, is that this is flowing half full, 40% full, even at low times. To TV a pipe like that is, it's only limited effectiveness, right? So there's only so much. We'll get results. They won't be perfect.
Top of pipe.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's kind of the. So the idea, I guess, is that the idea of trenching down to the pipe and reinforce and doing the shoring carries its own risks to the pipe itself. If you were, and what would, and again, if, let's say in your example, we decided you were going to do a spot repair somehow, and you were going to dig down that depth to do that. I think there's risks to more of the pipe just by doing that, just by getting down to the pipe. So, I think that certainly, I think our structural engineer has talked about how, the foundation could be designed so as to not put any additional pressure on the pipe, and I think that's important. I think certainly the the existing conditions of the pipe could be looked at, and before and after, right? So that's certainly something that can be done to make sure that during the construction process, we don't damage the pipe. And then, I mean, I think that, this is obviously all this older infrastructure is, a candidate for either, in-place pipelining or something like that could be done. And that's all, I think that's part of what we pay I&I fees for, so that could be done. And those type of lining projects too, that also does provide structural rigidity to the pipe as well. So I would say that maybe, you might need a bit more easement space around the manholes to allow that to happen. And I think, we've already identified that there's an alignment problem anyway. So, I mean, there's some tidying up of that easement that probably has to be done anyway. So I think that's something that, we would look at.
Yeah, I think kind of going on that, because I could see the issues with a 10-foot wide easement that we would have, and kind of looking at the pipe of what it is, and what is it, 70 years old now, and what's the lifespan of a RCP, generally speaking, 100 plus.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we talk about 100-year lifespan on some of these things, and there's probably pipe that are older than that, but.
Disagree, and then, but looking at it there is that we already kind of have a tight easement there, and looking at what they've done to do that pipe is they most likely jacked it under. They weren't digging it in there for reasons that you guys said. Would it be worth looking at the easements and the the town getting more easements around this pipe, just so if there is a problem, we could have a spot where we could jack something under it, or doing that, because that most likely would be the way that we would be fixing this pipe, would be to jack it, or to do another, to fix it trenchless. Is that something that, because I'm just looking at it like how are we gonna fix it? If there is an issue, how are we gonna fix it as it is? Just say there's no building there. How would we go in and say, okay, we have a collapsed pipe there. We have a 10-foot easement. Yeah, we have some rights on the outside of the easement, but, how much do we really have? How would we fix that pipe to begin with? We probably have to go back to the owner and saying, hey, we got an issue here. We're going to have widen our easement out, or get a temporary easement to go on either side. Or what we
Done somewhat routinely.
Yep, and I agree. And looking at it now is that it's 22 feet deep. How are we going to get to it? Are we going to, what would we normally do if there wasn't a building there? Looking at it that way. And are we going to dig it out to find the spot, or would we?
Like worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Play.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to see, without a building there, how would we approach the owner? And saying, okay, how are we going to do this? And maybe we could look at it and saying, well, maybe we get more easements on either side, thinking that, okay, well, there's a bend in the pipe right there. We might need that might be the access point where you're gonna jack or do a lining somewhere.
Yeah, and I agree with the idea that even if you did jacking or pipelining, you probably there might be an area you need to have more room in order to facilitate that operation. And so, we'd have to talk to our client. I mean, I think there would probably be some ability to widen the easement outside of the limits of where the building's going to be, so that you could do that.
Something for our commission to consider, as well as how will WPCA be protected? So if there is an allowance made for this structure to be built on top of our piping infrastructure, how will WPCA be protected? How will the town be protected if something goes wrong, right? And so we're performing whatever the service is on that pipeline verbatim, right, in accordance with specs. and it causes some type of defect in the building that's built upon it. How are we going to be protected?
I mean, I think it's a good point. And I think that, you know, we obviously need to do some work on the easement language and the easement itself. And I think that maybe that's part of that process, is that there's some kind of, I don't know, a hold harmless to the town with regard to repairs to the pipe that would be done under the building. I mean, I think if you cut up through somebody's parking lot, I think you're obligated to probably repair it, right? But this is different. I don't think that's fair, that you would be required to. And then it's more incentive for us to make sure that regardless of what you did trenchless on that pipe, that it wouldn't affect our building. So I think it's a good point, I think.
I think what I hear you guys saying, I just want to make sure I'm understanding, is that there must be a solution here that requires some adjustments that might allow the building to successfully go up while also protecting the town and the town's access. Something that makes more sense than just current easement or nothing. Right? Is that kind of what you guys are saying? Okay. Because I think that the town would love to have, you know, this kind of development in that area. I think the zoning commission already said they would. So if there's a way that makes this, that trades off risk and benefit in a way that is protective of the WPCA infrastructure, I think I'd love to hear that.
And it's not possible to construct this building outside of the easement,
Not
avoiding it.
Not with the current.
That
Layout.
would simplify things.
Yeah, but then again, they're going to build on 10 feet on either side of the easement, and we're still going to have the same problem.
I believe that was a question asked at the initial code enforcement meeting. Correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but that was an initial question that was asked by the sewer department, is can there be a reconfiguration of the site plan at all?
I didn't see that in the notes, quite frankly. I looked at the code enforcement notes, and I didn't see anything that was recorded as far as that question,
But then just play that out and say, okay, well, either reconfigure it. You'll build 10 feet on either side of the easement. Are we going to still have the same problem and be in a worse position? Not just saying it out there, is that we got 51 feet and they could go 80 feet on either side. Right on either side of the easement, put your footings down. Are we going to have an issue? They're going to have, 6 foot, 4 foot deep footings, spread footings there. Are we going to have an issue going on either side of that, going 15 feet below the footings?
right. Oh, no, then there's,
That, are we gonna have a structural problem where we're gonna have to support the building? And I'm just throwing it out there, are we almost in the same position either way with this?
I mean, I guess my problem is there's too many open-ended questions like this, agenda items to hear, consider, and act. I haven't heard a solution that makes me comfortable to act with approving this. Like, I'm not just giving up our right to the easement, and I haven't heard any kind of proposed solution that addresses any of the concerns here.
We're not suggesting that you make a decision tonight.
Oh, okay.
It was our expectation that you probably want some of Rob's work to be reviewed by Wright Pierce. It's further our expectation that, revising that easement in some fashion makes sense for all parties. You are correct that you can, at least to some extent, go beyond the 10 feet, but probably not for the excavation. It would be a very, very difficult piece of work for the town to accomplish within the 10 feet. There's also the fact that the pipe is literally outside the easement that you have today. Nobody's interested in dealing with adverse possession. We'd like to reach a solution. It's a project which, is very important, obviously, to my client, but it's an important project to the town. Taxes will go up roughly tenfold on this piece. These guys, the Kudavides brothers, have done 2 other projects, not only Alto, but the Sally's Pizza down on the corner of Black Rock. Very successful, something that the P&Z is very proud of. That's what the whole TOD district is designed to accomplish. Apartments where people don't have to drive. They're using the train. The first one had 90 apartments. The first concern was school kids. 90 apartments, there were 9 school children. It's not, and there was some thought that it would be, my son in there. No, it's people who have sold their house but don't want to move yet. People who want their child to finish in school. People who move to the apartment, they're looking for a house. There's all sorts of people in those apartments. They do not end up costing the town a great deal in terms of tax dollars. And we'd like to reach a conclusion so that this one, which I think will be a welcome addition, can go up as well. My thought would be that you continue this matter to January. We have learned a great deal tonight of the commission's concerns. You've learned a great deal of our data that we've produced in documentation. I'd like to continue the dialogue so that we can hopefully come up with something that is beneficial to both parties.
Is there anything else that we're looking from the applicant on our side?
And so at this point, the applicant has responded to my request for additional information on the technical memorandum that they submitted. And Bill and Rob and I have been discussing what the next recommended action would be. And my recommendation is that we bring their technical memorandum with their response to my request for additional information to Wright Pierce for their engineering review and recommendation to the commission to inform the January meeting.
Okay. And so, sorry, just so I understand, so Wright Pierce is going to provide recommendations on proposed easement changes to?
Not easement, this is solely the technical aspect, not the easement.
Okay, I
So
mean,
Phil has already weighed in.
Right, well, I guess-
On the easement.
so my two main concerns are, one, making sure that any changes
we wanna-
keeps our easement intact, but also that any proposed modifications or changes to our easement you guys are on board with. That is how,
So I
if
think-
there's anything that comes up pipeline-wise, that's our
So I think the first.
plan for repair.
So my recommendation is based off of like a two-step process. So the first step, let's have the technical review.
Okay.
And then let's see what that recommendation, if it confirms the assertions that are being made by the applicant, the next phase is let's enter into legal review because technically they're checking all the boxes.
Okay.
Right? And then we're bringing it to the town attorney, see, well, what can we do here? Like something that pops into mind, similar but different in many ways, ELUR, like environmental land use restriction. There has to be, I'm thinking there has to be something that would be recorded on the record that is in addition to the existing easement to lay out the specifics of the existing easement, right?
Right.
And the acceptable use there and identifying what the options are for us to be able to access our line. Also identifying what the risks are and who is assuming the responsibility for the risks.
Right. Yeah, and I guess foundational restrictions too. I mean, obviously you can't have a 20-foot deep basement
Yes.
above our pipe.
Right. So, like, very similar to like an environmental land use restriction in
Right.
many ways.
Yeah. Okay. Do we think, I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces to this. Do we think we're ready for January? Or do we want to just push it to January, and if we're not ready, we push it to February, or what do you guys?
I'm going to be out in town in January. Can you push it to February, Nico?
Well, maybe it's two steps and maybe we can get the technical aspects.
Well, let's get
of
Wright
the-
Pierce to review it. And
Part of it.
Oh, I think the pieces should be moving anyway. It's
Yeah.
more just whether or not we'll be ready for January.
Obviously, we'll need you as far as the legal portion on the easement.
Yeah.
But the technicality standpoint to confirm Rob's reports, Wright Pierce to at least check that box to continue moving it forward. So let's put it on for January, and
That's
how much
fine.
time do you guys need typically notice if we want to push it to February?
Well, I mean, if you guys aren't prepared at the January meeting, if nobody's here to do it, we'll probably just push it ourselves. So,
Yeah, like what we did last.
Yeah, okay.
yeah. Like, you guys didn't need to show up last month to request postponing.
Can we ensure that Wright Pierce has some dialogue with Mr. Pryor so that everybody's understanding one another?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep. With
That'd be a big help.
Being copied on all correspondence.
Great.
So wait, it's act, so we need a motion, right?
It's act, so you need a motion to
Continue.
continue.
Let's go into a date certain.
I make a motion to postpone the decision to act on, let's see, 7:30 and 7:70 Commerce Drive to the next scheduled meeting,
January 21.
January 21.
Actually not scheduled yet.
Yeah, we haven't actually
I don't know
approved that
if I-
schedule.
To a meeting to be determined.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you,
Aye.
gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Item number 4, new business, election of officers for calendar year 2026. How do we even do this?
You need someone to nominate who wants to be chair,
All right,
and then you need someone to second it, and then you
Okay.
have to ask if there's any other nominations.
any nominations for chair?
I'd like to nominate Matt for chair.
Second.
Damn.
All right, any other nominations for chair? All right, hearing none, do we just vote on it then?
All those in favor, yeah.
All in favor of me as chair?
I don't know if you could vote for yourself.
Okay. I mean, I might as well, right? What, am I supposed to abstain?
No,
Um,
You could oppose.
All right, I mean, maybe I should oppose. Nominees for vice chair. Do I have to know?
No, anybody can. I think anybody can.
People voting.
Nominate Chris.
I'd like to nominate Rob. Any other nominations? All in favor? All right, unanimous. All right, we've got our officers.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I guess. Item number 2, to hear, consider, and approve dates for calendar year 2026 WPCA Board of Commissioners meetings typically held on the third Wednesday of each month at 7 p.m. via Zoom and in person in the first floor conference room at Sullivan Independence Hall, 725 Old Post Road, Fairfield. The following dates are proposed: January 21st, February 18th, March 18th, April 15th, May 20th, June 17th, July 15th, August 19th, September 16th, October 21st, November 18th, December 16th.
So moved.
School vacation is the 15th.
Yes, you're on,
Of,
April vacation is the 15th.
so do we want to move that?
I'm not gonna be here. Are you gonna be
I
here?
won't be here.
Can we move that one to the 22nd or the 8th?
Anyone have preferences for moving the April meeting to one of those 2 dates? The 8th or the 22nd? Preferences? Any?
I'd like to see you guys with Sun 10, so.
15th then? Or, sorry, the 22nd.
Yeah, make it the 22nd.
22nd? Sounds good.
All right, so we'll move, the April meeting to April 22nd. Any other proposed changes?
I think someone has to make a motion to change it formally, but.
Do we?
Make a motion that we change the April meeting from the 15th to the 22nd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then all in favor of the other standard meeting dates? Ron? In. All right, unanimous. Thank you. All right. New business item number 3, to discuss next actions regarding the proposed sewer use bill adjustment policy.
So, last month's meeting, we had discussed with our town tax collector that the commission was, I believe, in acceptance of the conditions that his office applies to assessing requests for bill adjustments. And we'd like to either codify that in some way or create a policy. Next actions, looking for the commission's guidance on the utility, working on that directly with the tax collector, and bringing a proposed policy to this commission to review and make a decision on at a future meeting.
So, my personal take coming out of last month is I like the way it's currently done and don't feel like we need to be involved, but obviously if there's a new tax collector and they're doing it some different way, we might feel differently about how it's done. So I don't know what the right way to, I think it's working with the tax collector, right? So that he can help prepare something and
So
then,
we could work on drafting a policy in town between the two departments.
Based on how they do it today.
Based on how David presented the process that his office utilizes now. And we'll present that draft policy to the commission for consideration and discussion at a future meeting. And we could commission could act to decide on that.
So in the spirit of guidance, just a few thoughts I might add. He applies judgment, which I think is really important.
As professional judgment.
Yeah, so, that's not something that you can completely codify. Nor do we want to, right? Because you don't want people coming in saying, oh, actually, I qualify.
Exactly.
And I think you just want to preserve the judgment within a reasonable range
Yeah.
and define what a reasonable range is. And then anything beyond that reasonable range, maybe that is the escape valve that should
Like
come back to
max dollar value or?
dollar value, percent adjustment, or, if it's more than 18 months back, things that are out of the norm. And those are three guesses at what's out of the norm, but you can have better guesses than I do. And then I do think from our governance perspective, it would be good to hear from him once a year that he's done all of that within the norms and the total amount of adjustments is, higher or lower than last year by how much? And then we can say, okay, is this policy working
Yeah,
in a reasonable way?
it's definitely fair.
yeah, I like that a lot.
An annual report.
Mhm.
I think he'd go for it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I found last month's explanations very enlightening and, appreciate the hard work he does.
I think he can do a better assessment by going back and forth over time with people versus
Agreed.
coming here for a,
Right.
15-minute appointment with the committee.
Yeah. Sounds good. Any other thoughts or comments regarding development of a policy? Does this all make sense to everybody? No concerns? All right,
Okay, well, I'll move forward with David's office.
that sounds great.
Okay,
Thank you, Michelle.
sure.
All right, moving on, operational status updates, compliance bypasses, none. And compliance due dates.
Annual CIP report is something that we send to the state, summarizing any kind of improvements we've done to the plant as well as the collection system. And they also request an updated sewer map, which we provide every year. The Tier 2 report is due March 1st, and that is basically reporting what chemicals we have on site, who could possibly bring these chemicals to our site, the routes they take to the site, our emergency action plan if there is a spill or any kind of first aid type emergency. Again, that's something I've done in the past 4 or 5 years anyway, so. And I'll leave the last one to you.
Yeah, and we've discussed that at previous meetings for sure, that our NIPD's renewal application is due to the state on April 3rd. We have, since last month, we have recommended an award, which the Board of Select Persons did approve to utilize Fuss & O'Neill for these services.
Okay.
So we're just waiting for the professional service agreement to be signed, and we'll be moving forward on that.
That's good. Questions, anybody? I have one on the annual CIP report. Is that projects that have been done in the past year, projects that are upcoming?
Whatever has been done or is in
process?
process. Yes, anything future, they don't.
Okay, so it's mostly, it's a one annual look back?
Yep,
Okay,
correct.
okay,
It's a permit condition.
okay. Sounds good. Item number 2, facility. RSP valve replacements.
Raw sewage pumps, the pumps themselves have been replaced. We are finding that discharge piping needed to be replaced, which we just did, and the check valves are now in need of replacement. The valves that were put in 25 years ago are no longer made to that width. So you have to find something that's kind of close, have somebody make a spacer. So we do have a company that's worked with us in the past. They have a proposal. It's over $100,000, but they would buy the valves, make the spacers, take the old ones out, put the new ones in. Very good company, very professional, just over 100, so we'll probably be coming before you in January to request the funds to do that.
Yeah, so 100% WPCA funded per our funding policy.
And just a question, because I don't know, is there any kind of procurement policies that you guys have to follow in terms of getting multiple bids or anything like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any operational impacts with replacing those?
The way they did the pipe replacements, no. No, we can isolate one pump. They can, and the way they did the piping, I mean, they're just really methodical, really good, and it's a smooth operation.
Okay.
If it's the same people. So far, they're the only ones that have actually went out and searched far and wide for, because I think our check valves now are 40 inches, and they don't make them anymore. You can buy a 36, you can buy a 34, so you know. Then it gets into a whole thing of where they're made and, so all that stuff, so.
Okay. Any other questions? Alrighty. Collection system, Post Road with Center Street, SSA sewer main rehab.
So that was the sewer line on the Post Road, 18-inch pipe that was discovered in the I&I investigation where it was pretty worn out. It's downstream of the force main from Center Street. So we bypassed the station one time to do the TB work. We kind of honed our skills on where trucks needed to be and how things were to go. And then first part of December, we bypassed Center Street again, and the company came in, lined everything, reinstated everything, and one day, smooth, perfect. Yep, it was great, really.
What do they do, line it from manhole to manhole?
And depending on the run and everything, they can kind of go through a manhole and do 2 sections is what they did here. They did 2 sections at one time. And then when it's cured, they just send a thing down and cut it right out. Simple. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing what they can do. So that pretty much where the force main ends from Center Street, that line has been lined from where the force main ends all the way to the bridge on the Post Road.
Great. Questions? Capital improvement projects updates.
So I'm joined this evening by the town's capital projects PM, Beata Orson, and we will both be presenting on this list of projects. So this is like a calendar year-end summary of all of our active projects. I'll start with the Fairfield Beach Pump Station, which we discussed at length during last month's meeting. Our town is moving forward with evaluating those architectural renderings. We have had a meeting in person with Ty and Bond to review the elevations and the comments and questions that we received from all of you. And Ty and Bond has made some revisions to those elevations that had been presented from what we saw. So we're still on schedule to receive a draft 60% design package in mid-January. Architecturally speaking, we're evaluating the path forward for that. Ty and Bond does have an architectural group who is available for that type of work, but the town is not going to limit itself to only Ty and Bond for that. So we're in-house, we're evaluating where we're going to go with architectural renderings. We hear the public's comments loud and clear. We want to ensure that there's a consistent and certain aesthetic maintained. And we're not convinced that we're there yet. So that's where we stand with Fairfield Beach. Any questions?
You have to catalog the public comments.
We are, and so I have a transcriber that's working on the transcription from last month's meeting, the comments that were received verbally, and then we also have a record of, we received many emailed comments, so we have a record of those as well. And next steps in responding to the comments at large is going to be educational outreach. As to, I think, the thing that came through, I think, most clearly is questions about why the pump station must be elevated. Plant equipment improvements, phase 1. I'm going to tag Beata as the project manager for that to kick off the discussion, and I can chime in wherever you want me to. Beata.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Michelle. And what I want to say for this project is that the town is moving forward with AECOM and Nickerson joint venture. The contract has been approved by the Board of Selectmen, has been signed by the Board of, by First Select Woman, Christine Vitali, and it's in the hands of purchasing. Essentially what we need is from the contractor, we have received certificate of insurance and we're waiting for W-9 form for the joint venture to be presented to us before we can issue purchase order. It seems to be that the W-9 form for the joint venture has to be submitted for each project, and that's something that AECOM, is waiting for it. There was a delay related to, the government shutdown, and it seems now that things are opening up, and we're hoping to have that form and proceed with our kickoff meeting, which will be scheduled for the first week of January.
Any questions?
No.
All righty.
Beata, I think we'll just continue with you for item 1C, the Riverside siphon at Turney Creek.
Yeah, sure, of course. So a lot of good news for this project. Essentially, the project is substantially completed. The contractor is finishing up sidewalk and guide rails to protect the head walls. The opening ceremony is scheduled for, I want to say, possibly Monday, Tuesday, weather depending. There's some work that is still ongoing, and it's not advisable to open the bridge without the sidewalks being completed. But overall, the project is completed and finished, and we have not used any of the WPCA funds for the siphon replacement. There was $400,000 allocated in the funding for the siphon replacement, and that money has not been used. I do not foresee a reason to use this money, so essentially the money is not spent.
Joe will be happy.
At the Board of Selectmen meeting, I think they said the ribbon cutting would be on Monday. But
Yeah, okay.
We hope that it doesn't rain on Friday and slow that sidewalk from.
Yeah, it's all
have it on
it's all-
Friday. Too
it all
windy.
hinges on that, right? Like you said, it all hinges on the sidewalk. The contractor is essentially doing both things at the same time, which is, pouring concrete and then installing the posts for the guide rail. And hopefully that work can happen tomorrow, Thursday, and on Friday before the rain. If it doesn't happen, Monday is another day. And of course, if we don't pour concrete on Friday, we have to pour it on Monday, and the concrete will be wet and needs to be protected, and etc. So I said, full completion Tuesday. But
Any questions on the siphon? All right. Mill River?
So I'll take the Mill River Force Main. We are, from the town perspective, we're taking a little bit of a different approach with this project. So typically with this type of work, we would award it fully to an engineering design firm. And so we had gone through the process during this past summer to go out to bid to design firms. We did make a selection and an award to Beta Group for this. And our engineering department said, wait a minute. CCTV investigation, lining work, feasibility analysis of such, can't we do that? Can't we do that in-house? Isn't this routine work? And it is. Reached out to other WPCAs to understand how they've embarked on this themselves. Received specifications, received contractor contact information, did a lot of legwork. This could really help us in the future as we have so much of this work to do in our collection system. And it really upfront right now, it's the growing pains of learning how to do this ourselves, of developing the specifications in-house, and just learning from these contractors and the manufacturers and what products are available out there and that would best fit our needs. But I think this is, again, it's going to help us when it comes to improving efficiency and addressing repairs to our collection system that are routine in nature, and also save us money too. So great idea by engineering. That's Mega Jane, project manager on that. So that's the path we're taking now. So we did go out to bid, request for proposals for that investigative and lining work. We are working with a contractor to be able to bring an award recommendation to the Board of Selectmen in January. And we just recently met with Beta Group just last Friday to review how we've changed. They're on board with that change. They think that it makes sense as well. And just continuing to keep them in the loop as to, that decision-making process that's happening before we get to the need for their design services. So I think we're in a good place with Mill River at this point, and we're already learning a lot from this.
So we're doing the design in-house and then leveraging, or
We're not doing the design.
Just the
We're moving
investigation.
forward with the investigation work,
Okay.
which makes sense.
Yep.
And we'll get the feasibility analysis.
Right.
And then we'll because nobody knows that right now. We're in the same position as Beta is when it comes to that, and we could easily shepherd that piece of the project along.
Right.
And then when it gets to the hydraulic analysis and it gets to the design needs, that's where we're going to
That's when
lean
we
on
pull
Beta.
that. Okay,
Yep.
makes sense. Any other questions?
Okay. I'm going to hand it back over to Beata for East Trunk.
Okay, East Trunk project. So this is, so essentially what's going on with the East Trunk project is there are two phases of the project. The phase one, which one is in the Ash Creek wetland, is being done by a subcontractor to general contractor by Terry Contracting. So that work essentially is progressing quite well. The contractor is there. It's working, has mobilized equipment and has finished driving piles. And then we ran into the geotechnical subsurface conditions where piles that were drilled had to have a different type of a grout that would stay in place instead of, sort of disappearing through the holes. So we had that issue to deal with this summer. re-drill the pilings that will provide the support for SOE as well as for the sewer, and then regrout the pile. So that work is completed. Currently, we're placing SOE, which is the support of excavation, the sheet piles, and I want to say we're probably short of another 80 sheet piles that have to be put in before this whole area is enclosed. The area of the trench is enclosed and ready for excavation and reinforcement. So quite pleased with that work. The on-site super from Terry Contracting, Chris, is it's a very good person, a very knowledgeable person in operating both crane and the hammers and switching between and dealing with equipment failures and dealing with repairs. So good site super. The phase 2 of the project, we are essentially awaiting on a DEP to move on the approval of the permit for us to discharge the contaminated groundwater that will be pumped out from the trench to the sanitary sewer. So that project is delayed. Phase 2 is delayed till we get that permit. The general contractor on this project is Colonna Contracting, and the requirement for obtaining the permit and for getting the permit in place is on Colonna's responsibilities. They have been tasked, is in a contract for them to do it. This is not something that the town has to do it. Is some in a scope of work for Colonna's. So having said that, I really can't say at this point, and I wouldn't want to comment on at this point for the completion date for the project in phase 2. I can probably give an update next meeting for completion of phase 1 when we go through the winter season and when all the sheet pilings are in and excavation is completed. But for phase 2, I wouldn't want to commit to any dates as we will be delayed, if that's a fair statement.
Questions?
So just to let the commission know, DEEP has a permitting timeline of 6 months to render a decision on our pending application, and that brings us to January 10th. So we're coming really close to that. In the meantime, DEEP has reissued and revamped another general permit, a pretreatment permit, which would take this wastewater that we registered under a separate GP from DEEP. It could take that wastewater. We'll take that wastewater under that permit. And so there is a potential opportunity for us if we're not making progress with DEEP under the permit we registered under to register under this other permit. But what will it do to the permitting timeline? So will it, the state now have another 6 months to review? That's the question. The different permitting mechanism that just got issued over the past month, it does identify PFAS as the sticking point for our pending registration under the other GP. It does address PFAS, and so that's one thing that is an important change. And that's something that, because it's addressing PFAS in a way that it's requiring identification and monitoring, that could give us some leverage
So
in getting a permit.
This permit's related to pumping contaminated groundwater into our storage system.
POTW, yeah, yep.
Is this the only state that's actually doing this?
I don't think so. EPA has similar permit
For drinking water?
nationally for wastewater. Yep.
I don't know of any municipalities wastewater that are testing for PFAS.
Oh, I'm not saying at municipal level. I'm saying at a national level. So EPA issues permits like for state of Massachusetts. They're the permitting authority, not the state.
Right.
Okay, and so they are issuing NIFTY permits and have been for some time now with PFAS monitoring requirements. But yeah, yep, and
I'm
PFAS monitoring requirements that go into effect when there's an approved test method.
Okay.
And there's no approved test method.
I mean,
Well, it's
I don't know what
approved.
the
I will
federal
say
level.
it's approved, but it hasn't been promulgated into federal regulation yet.
They're also expensive tests.
But what's the limit?
Well, there's no limits. No one's even close to that.
Okay, so you're just
Yeah,
testing.
It's purely
Just
data
data.
acquisition.
Okay.
Running a test could be a way to meet a requirement to satisfy.
So we already have leaks in the line, it's already going into the line, so why can't we just pump it into the line? It makes,
And we know that.
you know, it's like,
Because we
it's kind of like, it's almost
testing.
too
Right, and so we're
logical.
a POTW that has been testing influent, effluent, and biosolids for PFAS using the approved test method that isn't yet promulgated federally. We already know that we have it.
We already know we have it.
So,
If it's infiltration, you don't need a permit, but if you're pumping.
It's already infiltrated. Most likely at about the same amount that we're gonna be pumping out, so.
Oh my God. I'll just keep my mouth shut. Let's keep going.
Unintended consequences.
so handing it back over to Beata for the Phase 5 I&I report out.
All right. So phase 5, I&I. So this was project that was done in two parts, essentially, which included lining and of the manholes and repairing the manholes, as well as lining the sewer, CCTV of the sewer, cleaning of the sewer, doing lining of short segment of pipe. So work has been done by two contractors. They more or less have started around, I want to say, May timeframe, and had a break for the summertime where the traffic on the beach road was heavy. And for the lining, sewer lining, we have used in situ technologies, and for the manholes, we have used National Water Main. Two different contractors, two different level of experience, different resources. Definitely, I was out in the field looking at in situ technologies. They're definitely capable people, capable company, good technology, as John was alluded to do lining, which really saves a lot of money for the town instead of replacing the facility. So we are very pleased with the amount of work that was done. I have more details, so the footage and everything that was done, and for both contractors. And want to say that we have came under budget by significant amount. So the budget for 2025, 2026 was $4.5 million. We have spent in 2025 fiscal year and through this year to date, approximately $1.4 million. So we have close to $3 million on hand to continue with this work in 2026, 2027 fiscal year. The project engineer was W. Pierce, which I think that they did okay job. They did a good job. The project engineer really was very responsive, came out many times to the site to kind of address the problems and to move the project forward. And so having said that, everything essentially for 2025 is in place. We have just received and processed all their payment. And that's where we are today.
Any questions on I&I?
Something to note with that huge cost differential is when we proceeded with what ended up being the actual scope of the work that was performed, we pulled out the private inflow piece. And so we are going to be addressing that in this next round under Phase 5 continued.
Okay.
So just to consider that's part of it, the savings.
Is this is the house by house type private inflow, like illegal connections, that kind of stuff, or?
What we're going after, the bigger contributions, which is catch basins,
Oh,
located
okay.
on private properties.
Okay.
Yeah. So not the house by house,
Okay,
like some
good.
pumps and roof drains. Yeah.
Those ones are fun. Center Street?
Center Street, we're not actively engaging on that now, although we did receive bond authorization for that back last spring. We will be going out to bid likely for the investigation services, similar strategy that we're putting in place for Mill River Forest Main at this point. So we have funding authorization to tackle both the Center Street Forest Main and the pump station. We're going to go with the Forest Main first. So again, we're going to use Mill River as the model. I think Center Street will be much more straightforward than Mill River because there's not the same unknowns that we had for Mill River.
Okay.
And we have the dual Forest Main in that case as well. So when we have gained more traction with the Mill River project. And I think this will fall within like late winter, early spring, most likely. We'll be going out to bid for RFPs for Center Street Forest Main for the investigative work. And then our good old flusher truck.
Pending,
Updates
no
from
updates.
from the
Supposed to be
vendor.
by this
Yeah.
month, next month, so.
Supposed to be a Christmas present.
Yeah, it might be a little late. It might be a little late.
Is it gonna be with like a bow on it, like it's
That's, yeah, never to remember.
Is it gonna be a naming contest?
We could have a naming contest, yeah.
I like it.
It's actually quite popular. Chicago does it, Arizona does it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm open to suggestions.
Any questions on any of the capital improvement
Flush that
projects?
one out a little bit.
I think you need younger people to weigh in on that.
All right, moving on, public comments and other, item number 1, change in appointments.
So just to let the full commission know that Alyssa Kent has stepped down from her position on the board, and I really appreciated her unique perspective that she brought and her commitment to service as a volunteer for us. This gives us an opportunity to comply with the new revisions to WPCA in the current town charter. So the current charter requires that the town engineer or the town engineer's designee be a voting member of this board. And in meetings with our town engineer, Bill Hurley, and our public works director, Frank Patisse, Bill has designated Frank to be our new board member, and Frank has accepted the nomination. So we will have Frank joining us. I think he definitely brings a great perspective. His experience in the engineering field as a professional engineer, professional civil engineer, and his knowledge of town services, of the town's process for moving capital projects forward. But then again, is not so ingrained in our specific projects that it will impact his vote in any way. So really looking forward to having Frank be a part of this commission as a voting member. And in addition to changing appointments, our CFO, and this was an existing requirement of the prior version of the charter that spoke to WPCA board assignments, similar to what my position now is on the board as like an ex officio non-voting member. The CFO was also in the same position, but my understanding is that sort of came and went as we had different people filling the CFO position for town. And more recently, we haven't had that consistent presence from the CFO at our board meetings. Right. Tom Harris and I have talked about, because the revisions actually say the CFO or the CFO's designee. And Tom, for now, has accepted that position and attending our meeting. So both Frank and Tom, their first meeting with us will be the January 21st meeting.
Great.
Give that update.
Sounds good. Questions? All right, item number 2, I have to read this ethics reminder. Per section 21-8 of the town's ethics ordinance, provided as backup to this agenda are the town ethics ordinance and Article 11 standards of conduct from the town charter for your review. These standards require each board chair or their designee to remind members of their obligations regarding ethics, conduct, freedom of information, and conflicts of interest at the first regular meeting on or after November 5th, 2025, and at least once annually thereafter. So I will be reading that at December meetings every year as an annual tradition. All right, item number 3. Next rulemaking package.
I think that we've been making great progress in strengthening WPCA's rules and regulations, modernizing the rules and regulations in many ways. I'll be coming forward to this commission with our next proposed rule package in February, and that'll be for public hearing. Then we'll have discussion. It's going to be inclusive of these items that I've outlined here, so changes to permit fees, contractor licensure and bonding and insurance requirements. We already have a section that speaks to this. There's gray areas in there that we need to strengthen. So they are enforceable because we're getting our sewer department staff are being challenged by contractors in some ways. And we'll also be looking to strengthen our road opening permit language. So something new for our budget in the coming fiscal year 27 is that we will be taking over what's the existing DPW account for road opening permit fees. It's not that much right now. It's in the like $30,000 to $40,000 range, but our sewer department has historically done all of the legwork in managing that permit process and also performing the compliance inspections and also managing all of the complaints related to road opening permits. Our rules and regulations are the only town regulations, ordinances that speak to road opening permits. And considering the resources that DPW has and the experience in the permitting process, Frank and I decided sewer department is best poised to keep this as a standard workflow. And with the addition of now WPCA will be able to collect the fees.
Nice.
Yeah.
Questions, comments? Anything else we want specifically included in that February discussion? All right, last but not least, public comment.
Anyone from the public?
I think Rick might be trying to.
It looks like he's trying.
Rick, you're on mute.
There you go.
There you
Yeah,
go.
okay, I'm sorry, I'm off mute now. I'm not a computer wizard here. Are you going to make available the study that was done on the physical structure of the pump house in Fairfield Beach Road as to why it needs to be replaced? Is it failing? And if so, where and why?
Can I answer that question? Because I do have the answer. Thank you for asking that, Rick. So that should already be available on our utilities' brand new website. So we're working on revamping our presence on the town's website from being two separate departments, the sewer department and the WPCF, into one, the water pollution control utility. As part of that effort, we are ensuring that public documents are readily available as links on that website. And our preliminary investigation report for the design of the Fairfield pump station and the other Phase 1 pump stations is one of those documents. So to answer your question, yes, if it's not already publicly available, it will be very soon.
Another question, and I'll try to keep these things short. You stated that the Center Street force main was sleeved, and yet you're planning on excavating Fairfield Beach Road to replace the main there. My question is, why can't it be sleeved?
The only thing we sleeved as far as Center Street was the pipe after the force main, the gravity part, not the force main itself.
So you're basically saying force mains can't be sleeved?
That I can't answer. I don't know.
All right. Will the residents of Fairfield Beach Road have any say in the design of a replacement building should it go forward?
We will definitely be taking public comments.
Right.
Because
We will be
I've
taking
submitted
it-
some
We will be taking
drawings.
additional public comments.
We submitted pictures of a pump house from Greenwich, I believe, along with a suggestion of having a building look something like Penfield Lighthouse.
Yes, and we've heard and we've recorded all public comments that we've received, both written and verbally. And the town is in the process of preparing a response to those comments. And as we get a little bit further into the design process, because we're only at 30% right now. So once we're able to receive a draft 60% package and review that internally, there will be an opportunity for a question and answer type of forum with the public.
All right, because at last month's meeting, you showed 3 different drawings, which basically one had shingles, one had vertical siding, and one had stone over concrete uprights, but was still basically looked like an offshore drilling rig with a sloped roof.
Yeah, and just note on that, those are very preliminary architectural renderings. And those were provided by the engineering firm and not an architectural design firm.
So basically everything's still in the works.
Correct. Stay tuned for more.
Okay, we will.
All right. That concludes the agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.